What's up, guys? Welcome today to the podcast. Eugene and I are going to dive into some recovery tips for you for jiu-jitsu and for training in general. The tips for these are going to be pretty simple. So, for me, you can get really off in the weeds with a lot of different stuff, but I don't think that helps most people. I think more than likely it probably just overwhelms you, right? It's like, oh, all this crazy stuff's coming at you, and then you don't have anything simple to act upon. So I'm going to give you some of basically my top five, and Eugene's going to throw in some of his as well, but I'm going to give you my top five tips for recovery. Recovery's become something that's become more and more important as I've gotten older. I'm 37 years old now. I've been training since I was, in my teens. I've been training since I was 14, 15 years old. So I've been training for a long time. And as I've gotten older, I've had to be sharper and sharper with my recovery to maintain my training habits and to keep my work productivity and everything else up. In addition to that, I also had a little bout with insomnia back in fall of last year. I was dealing with an issue where I just couldn't sleep very well. Typically 2 to 3 days in the week at night, I would be like wide awake. I'm talking about just laying there in bed, staring up at the ceiling, getting up, walking, going through the house, trying to find different spots to sleep, and just wide awake the whole night. And so I'm going to share some ideas with how I overcame that, how I got my sleep back to its normal routine, which is pretty much I can sleep anywhere, right? I can just fall asleep at any time and get the sleep that I need for recovery. And we'll get into this. So hopefully this is useful to you guys. And again, as always, thank you for listening to the podcast. And also thanks to our sponsors for helping make the podcast happen. Big thanks to Charlotte's Web for helping make the podcast happen. You can check them out at charlottesweb.com. Again, I'm a big fan of their CBD products. We'll talk a little bit more about some of the effects that it has on me during the podcast, because that's one of the things that I use for recovery. Mm-hmm. It's one of the mainstays in my recovery arsenal. And again, I've done it where if you've listened to the podcast long enough, you've heard me talk about going off of it, because I'll go off of it for a while just to sort of see. It's the same thing I do with coffee from time to time. I'll get off coffee for a while. Like I was talking about this last night with one of the guys, if you use coffee and caffeine and you just keep chugging it down, you really don't notice what it's doing to you. And then if you get off coffee or caffeine for a while and then bring it back in, you're like, oh, wow, that's what it's doing to me. And you get some contrast. And so again, I've been using CBD consistently, but I've gone off of it a little bit here and there just to test it out for a number of years. It's been one of my favorite supplements to have into the mix. It's one of the supplements I keep up with me most consistently after my first exposure to it back in 2018. And again, it took me a while to use it because I thought it was snake oil. I thought it was just people promoting all these benefits and everything else. And I'm usually, just because we've all been screwed over before with supplements, I'm usually really skeptical with them. But I really like this stuff. I'm a big fan of their Charlotte's Web CBD products. And since I started using them, it's been one of my supplements I use all the time. And again, everybody's endocannabinoid system is different. So you could use it and you can feel different effects. But I encourage everybody to try it out and just to see. I give samples out at the gym to my students and stuff like that, and let them try it out. And so I would encourage you, again, I consider you listening to this kind of an extension of one of my guys in the gym with me. So check it out. Go to their website at charlottesweb.com. And again, pick up one of the tinctures or one of the gummy packs. Try it out. Use the promo code Jiu-Jitsu20 to save 20% on the order. And again, if I could give you a recommendation, my favorites right now are the orange. I go back and forth, but it's the orange twist or whatever, orange blossom,
Orange
tincture,
blossom, yeah.
orange blossom tincture. And then I really like some of the gummies. They're gummies. They changed the formula and so on. They're very soft now.
Yummy.
Yeah, they're good. They're good. But again, those are what I use. I really like them. So check them out. Also, thanks to our sponsor, Epic Roll. Matt at Epic Roll is Matt at Epic Roll. That's his company, but Matt is the guy's name who owns it. He is a jiu-jitsu black belt who makes jiu-jitsu gear for jiu-jitsu people as a jiu-jitsu practitioner himself. Basically he's scratching his own itch, making stuff he likes, making gear he likes so that he can wear it and rock it out. And again, I like that because there's a lot of companies, I think, that don't do that. They create stuff just because they want to just make a buck. Obviously, anybody that runs a business, we want to make a buck. We want to make some money, right? But at the same time, he's putting out good, high quality stuff. I really like the designs for me. Here's an example of me. Back in the day, I remember when all the crazy stuff was going on. It was like the Ed Hardy and Affliction and all that stuff. It was just, you'd have these t-shirts and it would have so much just going on, right? I remember there was a guy making fun of an Ed Hardy shirt. He was like, it's like a lion raping a giraffe on a skateboard or something. It's like, it's just the most ridiculous. It's like, what is on this thing? Like all this crap. And for me, again, if you like that stuff, that's fine. I'm not really a big person on crazy designs. I like things a little bit more subtle. and simple. That's just me personally. And so I really like a lot of his designs. Most of them, there's a few that are kind of like they've got a lot of stuff going on, but for the most part,
bright colored and stuff.
yeah. So there's some bright color stuff.
They're different.
It looks good though. It looks
I like
tasteful, but a lot of his stuff's very simple, and I like that. And again, so if you want to check out any of his stuff, my big recommendation to you, if you're a no-gi jiu-jitsu practitioner, you got to get a pair of his shorts. Again, I really like the shorts. Pretty much that's the only no-gi shorts I wear anymore because those are the most comfortable ones I've ever had. They're mobile. You move in them well. They don't have a friggin' Velcro strap that gets all messed up over the years, and they're super comfortable. But again, his gis are nice too. His rash guards are great. So check his stuff out. T-shirts, merch, all that stuff at epicrollbjj.com. Promo code is Jiu-Jitsu for 15% off the order. And also, guys, if you want to support the podcast directly, you can go to our Patreon and subscribe. Go to patreon.com/the Jiu-Jitsu podcast. We upload a lot of new content, one from the guests that we have on there, but some of it's from questions and things like that we have from the Patreon members. The question we just uploaded today was a question about a guy, who basically had a situation where his there's some drama going on at his gym where the gym owner slept with like one of the coach's wives, and it's a whole mess. So again, we talk about that and get into it in the Patreon as well, some other stuff as well. So check that out at patreon.com/the Jiu-Jitsu podcast. And guys, if you want to join my Chew Crew email list, you can become a subscriber by going to chewjitsu.net/join. That's CHEWJITSU.net. because .com was already taken when I got that website /join JOIN. For doing that, you'll get access to 3 free ebooks, and you'll also get my daily email, and you'll also get one of the perks of being a subscriber is you get access to anything that comes out, and you also get discounts for most of everything that I give out. So for instance, right now, we're doing, at the time of recordings, we're doing a jiu-jitsu camp. We sold out the first one in 2 hours. So our August camp sold out in 2 hours. And so now we're doing one in September. And at the current time of doing this, we're down, I think we've sold 6 more spots. And so we're going to keep going. So again, if you want to get access to it, I'm not opening it up to social media, at least for a while. I want to try to give my email subscribers first crack because those are the people that I tend to sort of take care of first. So again, if you want to get access to any of that stuff and have first dibs at it, become a subscriber. All right, guys. And so with that said, let's jump into these recovery tips. All right, guys. So today I'm going to give you some of these basic recovery tips that I personally find really useful. And again, they're going to be simple because I don't want to give you stuff that's really complex, really like in depth to the point where it just overwhelms you. Right. So again, I don't want you to listen to this podcast and be like, well, that's really great. Like sometimes, there's a lot of people out there that are really good, that know their stuff, and they share a lot of good tips, but they share so much. It's like, I don't even know where to start. I'm going to give you some simple stuff to start on, stuff that basically you're already doing, but you can just tweak it. So the first tip, and this is really important and it's basic, is get enough sleep. Get enough sleep and get good sleep. It's a must. You can't even talk about recovery or being in like working towards being the healthiest, best version of yourself if your sleep's out of whack. It just isn't going to happen. For anybody that's like dealt with insomnia and stuff like that, you understand this very, very easily because it feels like when you don't get enough sleep, you feel like death. At least for me, I felt terrible. So as I mentioned at the beginning of the podcast, I had this issue with insomnia. I don't know exactly what was going on, but for whatever reason, back in this past fall, I literally went from someone that, from the time I've always been able to do this since I was a kid, I can fall asleep whenever I need to. Basically I go. And then when it's time to go to bed, I just lay my head on a pillow and I'm out. And in the fall, for whatever reason, I ran into this situation where I just couldn't sleep. And I remember there was a couple times where like I would say, okay, I can't sleep. Let me take some sort of over-the-counter sleep medication to help me out. Like, like a Unisom or like a NyQuil. Take that. And there was one night where I took a full dose of NyQuil. Now I'm super sensitive to like pretty much medicine in general, like any supplement medicine. I usually take a small dose first. And I took a full dose of NyQuil, which usually will not knock me out for like 10 hours. And I laid awake until like 5, 6 o'clock in the morning. It was awful. It was like I was awake, but I just couldn't do anything. I was tired. Tears were running down my eyes because my eyes were just so heavy. And I'm just like, I can't do anything. This is awful. So I had to start doing something. And so I went through a bunch of different stuff, and we'll get into the sleep thing. There's a bunch of different stuff that I did and tried. and I'll share the tips with you that really helped me get the most bang for my buck. So number one with sleep, I created a sort of really strict, and I became very militant about my nighttime sort of pre-sleep routine. So at this point right now, and this could obviously change, I'm always doing different stuff, but at the current time right now, I do not set an alarm to wake up. I have the luxury to do that, right? I kind of make my schedule and stuff like that. I typically wake up around between 7 o'clock to like 7:30 generally, which is what I would set my alarm for anyway. But I just don't set an alarm because there's some days where, like, if I trained really, really hard the day before, I might sleep till like 8 o'clock, which again, so I know some people are like, that's too late to get up or whatever, because you're supposed to be waking up at 5 in the morning. But I've done the thing. I've got up at literally 4:30 in the morning on a regular basis, 5 in the morning on a regular basis. And I'm no more productive than I am if I get up at like 8, because if my body needs to get up at 8 and I sleep until then, I wake up and I'm wide awake, I'm energetic, and I'm so much more productive. Again, to me, it's about the quality of the hours that you're really putting in, not just the quantity. I could put in like way more hours back in the day, but I was damn near brain dead because I was exhausted. Whereas when I was like sharp mentally, I can get done what I do in 5 hours in like 2 hours if I'm sharp. So again, I set an alarm I set my alarm now to go to sleep, to start my routine, not to wake up. And so basically I have my little alarm that pops up on my phone, be like, it's time to wind down. So whatever you're doing, no more phone, no more electronics. It's time to wind down. And then from there, what I do is I go in, I have red lamps all throughout the house. So basically we always hear this thing about blue light, right? And blue light that comes from our screens, from certain LED lights that we have in our house, and from the sun. And so that light is designed to make us sort of, our bodies interpret that light as being wide awake, because it's kind of the blue light is the same light that comes from the sun in the earlier part of the day. And so towards the later part of the day, when the sun begins to set, if you look outside at a sunset, the light becomes more of a reddish hue, reddish and purple. And so they sell little light bulbs that are very dim relatively to like these bright LEDs, and they have like a red around them, red and sort of a purple color. Like you're not going to be on a black light or anything like that, but it's just a reddish hue. And those lights, I have those in a lamp in the living room. I have one in the bedroom, and those are much more relaxing. And I can wind down. I can still read. I can still do all that stuff at night, but it's a better light to go to sleep to. And again, I don't touch my electronic stuff for at least an hour or more before bed. Another thing that I do is that helped me out was, like, again, if you're someone that owns their own business, or if you've just got a lot of stuff going on, mentally it can be tough to wind down because you just got so much going on. So I have I don't have it with me, but I've got like a little small journal that's become kind of like my daily list of stuff to do. And so the day before, if I've got some stuff in my mind that I want to get worked on the next day, or something that's on my mind, I'll write it down in that little list thing. So this way I can make sure that I notate it for tomorrow. So I have kind of a plan for the next day, which kind of puts my mind at ease. But okay, I can turn my brain off now because I have this stuff in the journal, which means I will get to it tomorrow. Not now, but the fact that I put it down in the journal is helpful to me, because otherwise I'll keep going in my head and keep going on about it. Another thing that I do is I write in my journal, I like writing in a journal, just sort of dumping out my thoughts at times. And so if there's something bothering me, like if something's on my mind and I can't get it out, because we've all experienced that, where you get this repeating thoughts, I dump it out in the journal immediately, because then it's like, once it's on paper, it's like, it's out, it's done. Yeah. I've dealt with it. I feel better. Now I can go to sleep. And then the last thing I do is I get a book and I start reading, or I listen to an audiobook. So like I've been listening to an audiobook on the American Revolution. That's been interesting. Any of you guys that are history buffs, I know a lot of you guys are, because you'll send me messages about whether or not I listen to Dan Carlin. I do listen to Dan for a long time. But another great thing, if you've got access to it, is the Great Courses lectures. They have a bunch of like college professors that have all kinds of really good history lecture series. Typically it's like between 20 and 30 lectures each, and so it's just awesome. It's like fun. So like there's a really good one by a guy named Professor Aldrete. It's like Aldrete, and like he's got one, it's like the most decisive battles in history. And there's another good one, I can't remember the professor's name offhand, but Jess really liked this one. It was one where he talked about basically instead of going into like because whenever you talk about history, most of the time it's like the big guys and like the big names and stuff. He focused on what it was like to live in the Roman world and what life would have been like for the average person, which was really interesting to think about, like, because there's so many things that we don't really even give 2 seconds of thought to in our normal world that we're like, that are like marvels. I mean, just indoor plumbing is amazing. I mean, the fact that you can just go flip water up and water comes out. I mean, it's not even the whole world has that still. I mean, it's amazing. So it's a really cool one, but you can look up, like, if you got Audible, you can look up like, living in the Roman world or whatever. You'll probably find it. But anyway, so I'll listen to that, or I like reading books that have a story of some sort. Sometimes these are fictional books. Or sometimes these are biographies and things like that. And so I like reading those. And so that's what I read. And then I typically start on the couch first. So I stay out on the couch and I read my book with my red lamp. And then once I start to get tired, that's when I go to bed. Because what ends up happening a lot of times, if I just straight go to bed and I don't have that wind down process, it's like I'm not ready to go to bed yet. But if I go to bed when I'm tired, and there's like they've done studies, I guess, or whatever, where they basically say that you don't want to stay in bed if you're not tired. Your bed is typically and by the way, if you got a TV, get that TV out of your bedroom. But basically, bed is for just a couple things, sleeping and other stuff, right? And so you guys know what I'm talking about.
You know what's up. You're a newlywed, Chewy. You know what's up.
That's right. But you go to the bedroom when you're sleepy. And like one of the things I started doing too is if I had trouble sleeping during the night, I would just get up and go sleep on the couch or lay on the couch and read books. One more thing too, if you struggle with sleep, it can be the most infuriating thing because you're like, I want to sleep. You're almost like just like almost having this battle with your body, like, body, let me sleep. What are you doing? I want to be tired right now. One thing that I found was that, like, the more that I fought with it, the worse it was. And so if I was up one night where I was just kind of up, I was like, screw it. I'm just going to be up and do stuff. And so I would get my favorite, because a lot of times as busy as I am, I don't get to read as much as I like.
Yeah.
I still get to read, but like my bookshelf has books up to the queue. I can usually get through a book every week or two, but I want to read more. So like, I'm like, screw it. It's 2:30 in the morning. I'm wide awake. I'm going to read. And a lot of times when I made that conscious, just sort of like feeling like to enjoy my time while I'm up, I would just read, and then sure enough, I'd pass right out. Or I remember there was one morning where, like, it was probably the worst night that I had the whole time with that insomnia crap. It was 5 a.m. I couldn't sleep. So I'd said, screw it. I'm just going to get up and enjoy the morning. So I got up and made breakfast for myself. No coffee. Made breakfast for myself. Went downstairs and did my morning work that I normally did. And then I got really tired right around like 6:30. Fell asleep for about 4 hours and was out cold. Felt better. I felt good enough to get the day done, but it was really helpful. So again, those are some of my tips. And again, if you struggle with sleep, again, those are some of my tips for it. But again, the biggest one that I could really press upon you, because even if you don't have trouble sleeping, is to try to carve out some time for yourself to sleep. And make sure you give yourself a nice winding down process to go to sleep. Again, an hour would be ideal if you can afford it, an hour, hour and a half. Give yourself some time to wind down. And if you have the luxury of doing it, don't set an alarm to wake up. Wake up when you wake up. I know that's crazy, but again, just try it if you can. And if you can't, simply set your alarm for the latest possible time that you can. This way you can get as much sleep as you need, right? Because again, if you're training hard and stuff like that, it's important to get some sleep. And again, I know there's stuff that has to be done, but you'll probably find if you're getting better sleep, you probably won't need as much coffee. You won't need as much stimulation, things like that. You'll be able to get more done in the same time. Your training is going to be better. So while you may be losing an hour or 30 minutes or whatever of like extra time you could have been working or doing something, you might find that it pays off big on the other side. Because you're more well prepared. But the sleep ritual and stuff like that. And later towards the end of the episode, I'll share some of the sleep supplements I used to sort of get myself back on track.
Yeah, those are all great points. The only things that maybe one thing that I do is sometimes, like, because I have kids that like some of the lights on a little bit, so I actually started using like a sleep mask, like a sleeping mask.
Oh yeah, it's smart.
Just because I can't have any light. I need it to be super dark. So I actually got like a little sleep mask, or eye mask, and I use that. And then I think the other thing that was really important for me, like, somebody that does like video content or constantly, scheduling and just a lot of stuff going on, a lot of multiple. I'm pretty busy in my I'm doing a number of different things, and I think making that list just to like almost like offload that stuff of what you need to do. Like I'll make like a to-do list for the next day. Some of the big things. I think that really helps my mind kind of calm down and quit running so fast, because you're just like, oh, I gotta get this done. But if you write it down, you're like, all right, I've got it out. I know what I have to get done. When tomorrow I'm gonna work on it. I know what I have to do. You're not gonna be like hoping that you don't forget something.
Right.
So I think those two for me, the list is really important. And then like if you have the luxury or the ability to have like a nice little winding down routine, I think that's valuable. Because I mean you're building that routine, and that's important. That was the whole thing. I think you're building a routine where you're almost like cueing your body, like, hey, this is the next cue, this is the next step of the process of kind of getting to this restful sleeping state.
Yeah, I try to, because what it really does is allows your body to be predictable about your sleep time, because I try to fall asleep around the same time every day, usually within about a 30-minute window. And then it's honestly like when you get into that routine, your body gets really good. Like I'll be, doing something, and then all of a sudden, 10:30's hitting, and all of a sudden I'm starting to like just doze off, and it's there. And to kind of go back to your idea on the sleep mask, I don't use a sleep mask because I don't like having like something wrapped around my head. But you've seen my whole little get up where I wrap my face. So Eugene stayed with me. We were at a hotel when we were on a trip, and like he got a kick out of the fact that I had this towel covering my face. And so basically you could see my mouth, but you couldn't see anything else.
I got to share something about this. We were in Vegas doing Master Worlds. It was 2016. And this is how much sense. I don't know why this is me, you, and Justin Court. Justin Court's like 135 pounds. Is he 135 that he competes at?
Yeah.
He's like 5 foot something, right? He's short, and he's like doesn't take up a lot of space. Justin had a whole bed to himself, and me and Chewy are like on a bed together. And I'm
Eugene wanted to snuggle with me.
I mean, maybe, but I don't. I was like, well, how did Justin weasel his way? Like he's got the whole bed to himself, and me and you are like the bigger individuals, and we got to share a bed. But yeah.
Justin, one tournament we stayed at the Pans together one year with some guys, and there was one night that like Justin was sleeping, and he like rolled over, was kind of close to me. Like he was sleeping on his side. He was like right next to me, so I put a pillow in between us. It's like keep your little ass over there. Another thing too, these are things I didn't even think about listing these, but blackout curtains. I put blackout curtains in our house because. Again, it just like you're talking about like the blackness. I want darkness at night. I don't want any bright lights, no nothing. We don't have any lights in the bedroom, no TVs, no nothing. It's just black, and it's nice because it's so easy to fall asleep. And if for some reason I wake up in the middle of the night, maybe for whatever reason, I can go right back to sleep. There's nothing to jar me awake.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, and where I'm asked, but I would do really like it gets kind of annoying because I do really light and almost like have it like kind of draped over. But
I just throw I usually have like a sleep t-shirt. So I just take my t-shirt and like sling it over my face. And then when I wake up in the morning, I'll just like take it off my face and just
slip it on. It's like a whole cocoon around your head. With just like your mouth and nose.
Well, not right now because it's like in the summertime, I sleep like half in the covers, half out of the covers.
Yeah.
Because we try to keep the temperature. Also, another important tip for sleep is keep the temperature low. Like you fall asleep better when it's cold than you do when it's hot.
Right.
Obviously there's there's a certain limit to this, right? We're not trying to like drop it to like 30 degrees or something, but like your body sleeps when it's a little bit cooler. So we typically have our like at nighttime we'll drop our temperature down in the house because I don't like it to be this cold all the time, but at nighttime we'll drop it to like about 68, just so like at nighttime you're getting really kind of cold and you bundle up under the covers, and then in the morning we'll turn it back up.
All right, let's do it.
Next tip is about eating the right kinds of foods for your goals. Now, the reason why I said it that way is because diet can be such a dogmatic thing to talk about. Like if, for instance, I remember I did a video where I was sharing that I like eating lots of carbs. My body composition is better. I feel more energetic when I eat lots of carbs, lots of protein, and just a moderate amount of fat, right? And I remember someone was like, they were like, Chewy, you really need to get on keto. It'll change your life. Da, 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 da. I'm like, just stop. Like, if you want to do keto, that's perfectly fine. I don't want to. I've tried it. Don't like it. It's not easy for me to stay consistent with that particular diet. And again, there's a lot of different diets. I have a theory, like, because you'll hear people say, "Oh, I went carnivore and I feel so much better. I have no inflammation," or "I did vegan and I have no inflammation. I feel great," or "I did that." Like they go on a really strict diet and they feel better. I think one of the big things that really what it is simply you're cutting out a bunch of junk,
Yeah.
right? Like you're cutting out a bunch of processed sugar and foods and stuff like that. You're eating whole foods and like you're like, "Oh, I feel great." Well, yeah, because you're probably not. You're probably getting rid of the junk food that was probably causing the problem in the first place. It's my theory.
Yeah, you're restricting a bunch of shit. I mean, that's really it. You're like very regimented and you're very restrictive on what you're eating. So I think it makes perfect sense.
Yeah, but the reason why I bring this up is like my buddy Dukes. He just hired he about 3 weeks ago or so, or 4 weeks ago. He hired maybe it's longer than that, but he hired the coach that I use for my nutrition, and he's lost a ton of weight. And he's feeling great. He feels energetic. He's like, man, my body feels great. I don't have inflammation. Like I'm, 50 years old and I can see differences in like my body. And I'm like, man, I wish I would have been doing this sooner.
Mm-hmm.
And again, he's eating a very similar diet to me because he's training and stuff like that. A little bit different. There's some differences that he wanted to make for his than mine, but it's a similar idea. And so again, just that sort of thing out of the way. When I say eat foods for your goals, the right foods for your goals, basically you have to ask yourself a couple questions. One, if you have a particular weight goal in mind, are you actively reaching that? Right. So let's say if you wanted to lose 10 pounds, is your weight on the decline? Because if it's not, probably not eating the right foods. I mean, it's just the nature of the beast. You're not eating the right foods. You're probably eating too much of something, maybe not enough of something else. And so you need to change things. The other thing is, how do you feel? As a jiu-jitsu practitioner, as a martial artist, you need to consider yourself like an athlete. You have to be in tune to your body, and everything has to be tweaked to improve. And so if you feel lethargic, if you don't have energy for training or work or your kids, your life, or whatever, then you're probably not eating a good diet. Because I can tell you, eating a good diet that's right for you, that works with your body and works with your habits and everything else, you should feel pretty good. I mean, it's one of the things, like when we went to to Jess's grandmother's, who just turned 90, we went there for recently for a get together. Granny has all these delicious baked goods and stuff like that and cinnamon rolls. I remember the first day we got there, I felt terrible.
Yep.
So then I went to the grocery store, got my own food, and I was making my meals as I was there because I didn't like feeling lethargic for the whole day. Because literally we would eat cinnamon rolls in the morning, and then for the rest of the day, I feel awful. Yeah. I just don't feel good. I don't feel sharp. But then if I eat like my oats and blueberries and eggs and chicken and things like that, I feel amazing. I feel like I can friggin' break through the friggin' wall like the Kool-Aid man. Oh yeah. Yeah. But I feel good. And so again, those are that when I say eating the right foods for your goals, basically, are you reaching your weight goals, whether you're trying to gain weight, lose weight, and how do you feel? Do you feel good? Do you feel lethargic? If you don't feel good, you should probably start tweaking your diet. You should start trying to change things up, maybe the timing of the foods or the type of foods you eat, whatever it might be.
Yeah, I agree with that. Like, I think the right foods and the right amounts, are you eating enough of certain things or too much of something else? I mean, I had a similar experience. Went on vacation with my wife's parents, and all it was like, there was like literally I didn't eat any vegetables. Like, I'm not a huge vegetable person, but I do feel like I need that to help my digestion.
Yeah, buddy.
Otherwise I get like, just my stomach gets doesn't feel great. So I do need the fiber and stuff like that to keep myself regular. I'm so old.
Bro.
but honestly,
no, man, I get it.
I ate like white bread. They had white bread, so I had sandwiches with white bread, which I'd never eat, which I love white bread, but I never eat it. It's so soft. It's like, oh my God, how soft it is. I was like, the bread I eat, like I'll eat that, like, if I do eat bread, we get like that Mike's Killer bread, I think.
Yeah, Mike's Killer, we got some, it's pretty good.
It's like good.
It's hearty.
It is, and it's not like, but it's good. It doesn't have as much of some of the processed. I think it's more.
Bro, white bread's like
God.
it's like so airy. Like you can you can take a whole loaf of bread and you can smash it down to
so
that.
So good though.
It's
like
terrible.
A sandwich with some white bread, but I did that, and then we just ate like some burgers with like again like I just felt terrible. So definitely like the diet is just so important for your energy and just how you feel and what your needs are. And there's not like you don't have to be like completely ritualistic all the time, so stringent on your diet. Like, it's okay to have a little food here and there, but you'll realize, man, we went out to eat. We ate some stuff that probably isn't the best for my diet, and you feel it a little bit. And it kind of gets you on the right track. So I think sometimes even messing up your diet a little bit can kind of like almost like right the ship a little bit. Like oh God, I don't want to feel like that again. So it kind of gets you back on the right track.
That's what Dukes and I were talking about this morning, was like the fact that like you don't really want to cheat because you feel so good.
Yeah.
And when you cheat, you don't feel good. So therefore the incentive to do it isn't really there anymore. And again, just a couple of tips for you guys. You know, if you maybe you're curious about, you know, foods, again, for recovery, especially when you're doing like a lot of high intense training and stuff like that, my encouragement to you is get lots of protein and try to get some good sources of carbohydrates in, like rice, oats, potatoes, things like that.
Yeah, good carbs, not like crazy, you know, sugar. Like, I mean, don't, you know.
Well, even sugars can be okay. Like, for instance, like if you want to get a little sugar in, if you had a really, really intense session, like last night I had a Pop-Tart. After I was so, because I had a big long bout of training. I had one Pop-Tart after training. You know, and
I gotta interrupt you. Like we were messing with you yesterday, like during training. You were like sitting on the bench, like had this blender full of some kind of liquid.
Protein shake.
That's what you say it was, but it looked
vanilla.
Like it looked like some type of alcoholic beverage. And then he's already eating a Pop-Tart and drinking out of this blender. I'm like, dude, what are you doing? What is this?
Yeah,
like, margaritas and Pop-Tarts, baby.
I was like, I'm just trying to live life.
Dude, that's a good, we're going to make a shirt. It says margaritas and Pop-Tarts.
Margaritas and Pop-Tarts.
That's right.
Rolling. But no, it's like, I mean, you can have some sugars like around your intense training and stuff like that. That's okay. The key though is like, again, where people I think really mess up with this stuff is, as far as like weight and stuff like that, because they assume that, because like you'll hear people say, oh, I can't have carbs because like, man, pizza and cakes really get me.
Different type of carbs, baby.
Well, they're not even, well, here's my deal with them. They're not really carbs. Yes, they have carbs, but if you actually look on most of those things that people assume are quote carbs, they actually have more calories from fat than they do carbohydrates, right? So those are honestly more fat than they are carbs. Like you have more calories from fat. You know, like if you look at a pizza, it's covered in cheese and everything else. If you look at like the ingredient or the nutritional facts of most pizza, most of the calories come from fat, not carbs. And so I think that a lot of people mistakenly think that it's a carbs are like rice, potatoes, and things like that. They're not, unless they're combined with something else, they're not the easiest things to overeat. You know, maybe fruit maybe would be the easiest thing, but even fruit, eventually you're kind of like, I've had enough fruit, you know, but it's when you start combining the carbohydrates with lots of fats, that's when it's like this, it short circuits our brain, because you think about both of those macronutrients are essentially just their energy. So carbohydrates, energy, fats are energy. And there's nothing in nature that really has a lot of carbohydrates and fats together, except for, I think, milk. Milk's like one of the only things. Like if you look at anything in nature, if there's lots of carbs, there's almost no fat. If there's lots of fat, there's almost no carbs. You know, you look at like an avocado that's all fat. So it's a fruit technically, right? It's all fat, almost no carbs. You look at fruit, tons of carbs, tons of fiber, almost no fat, right? And so that's the big difference between them. So you kind of want to balance it out. So again, when I eat around my training and stuff like that to recover from or to get my training going, usually they're high protein, high carb meals, not a lot of fat. So this way my body can readily absorb it. And I keep my more fat-based meals or heavier fat meals either before training, way before training, or later in the day when I'm done. So
yeah, I think for the most part, that's always the case, but I think you eat stuff that's not really terribly processed. You know, I think that's another thing.
Foods.
Like the processed
when ingredients, foods.
Yep.
With the exception of some of like every now and then I'll add some sauces and things, stuff like that.
Yeah,
but the actual foods are one ingredient foods.
Yeah, you're not eating like processed shit. Like, you know, it's more like whole foods and kind of stuff that's pretty simple. Yeah, like you said, one ingredient.
Yeah, if you guys want to see my diet, exactly what I eat, you can go on YouTube and you can go put in Jiu-Jitsu diet and you'll find it. I actually took you on a day of my eating, and that was almost 6 months ago. I eat the same foods, just in different proportions. So tip number 3, and this one was funny. So I put this up on Instagram originally. People like were sending me the ones that they had the most trouble with. This is the one that people had the most trouble unanimously. Take days off when you needed, or take days off when you need. And then in parentheses, I put, you won't lose your progress, I promise. Because most people get so neurotic about their training that they can't allow themselves to take one day off. You know, they you know, and I'm guilty of this too. Like there's times where like maybe, you know, I have to fight against this, where I might be tired, and then all of a sudden I'll like look on Instagram and I'll see a picture or video or something, and I'll get all jazzed up. Like, all right, I need to go get to the gym. No excuses. Let's go. But if my body's just like been wrecked by like multiple days of training, a little bit of rest is a really good thing. And again, if you test this stuff out for yourself, if you get really wore out, take a day or two off and see how you feel when you come back. Most of the time, you'll probably say, like, man, I feel really good.
Yeah.
Like a lot of times, like most of the black belts that I've talked to over the years, one of the things that they like, a lot of them will say is that, like, yeah, man, I remember like I took a couple of days off because I got sick or because I had to do this, that, whatever. And I came back and I was like, man, I feel really good. Maybe I just need to take days off sometimes, right? Because with jiu-jitsu, it's fun. And also with people that are, especially if you're like an A type and you're just like always trying to get after it and be productive and progress and everything else, you probably have enough willpower to push yourself through things. But there's a point where the juice isn't going to be worth the squeeze. Usually you'll start getting into those points where you have subpar training, you don't feel mentally sharp, you feel physically beat up, you're getting injured all the time, maybe getting sick. And then if you just take a day off or 2 days off and let your body recover from that, you come back, your cardio hasn't gone anywhere. Mentally, you're sharper. Physically, you might even be hitting techniques in a better way than what you were before because your body had time to rest up and sort of repair itself, and you're in a better condition to do those techniques, and you're better than what you were when you left. And so again, my encouragement to you is honor your body and be willing to take rest from time to time. A full rest day. I mean, like no hard training, maybe a walk or something, but no hard training, and just let your body recover.
Yeah, I agree. And a rest day doesn't mean sit on your butt all day, watch TV, and like eat terrible food or something. It's more like I said, you can do a rest day could include like a nice walk. You can, like, I have a road bike that I like to get on. I'm not trying to like pound like a bunch of miles out, but I'm just like more like going, it's a relaxing thing. I'm outside. And then like, I think just like some gentle stretching or like some mobility work, whatever you like to do, whatever's relaxing, working on even breathing, focus on just like some deep breathing, diaphragmatic breathing, that kind of stuff, just to help your body kind of chill. I think, rest doesn't mean like don't do anything, like just sit there all day, because that doesn't feel good either. You can almost feel more fatigued if you just sit there and do nothing. You want to be active, but like it's not like jiu-jitsu. I'm training, I'm really rolling active. It's just really just a comfortable walk. Go do some things, but not necessarily, beat your body into a pulp.
Yeah, I mean, for me, like I have some days where I literally probably won't do anything. Like I have rest days where like the extent of my exercise is a walk. Like that's about it. I'll go for a walk in the day just get some sun. And on those days, like it's a great chance to like focus on other things in your life, like maybe your spouse or maybe your girlfriend or boyfriend, or maybe your kids, or maybe you got some stuff for work you need to do. Maybe you want to catch up on some reading or something like that. Like give it some other place in your life for something else. And I find this interesting thing, from all the stuff that I do, when I get time away from one thing, when I come back, I'm better at that thing. So for instance, with my work, I try to have like a day where I don't do any actual work, which is really freaking difficult for me because I always want to I always want to work on stuff. I've always got stuff that I'm cooking up and I'm always wanting to work. But there's at least one day a week, usually it's Saturday, where I don't even allow myself to work. So I literally just do whatever the hell I want to do. Like I'll go train jiu-jitsu in the morning or whatever sometimes, and then I will get up and maybe I go home and I'm just like reading a book or dicking around on something. And, Jess and I will go do stuff, but I don't do any work. The next day on Sundays, because Sundays is like one of my biggest writing days, I'm like, I'm so itchy to get my work done. I'm ready to go.
Yeah.
And so sometimes when you take these days off, it takes you from a place of where you might even feel to the point where you're like, man, I'm a little burned out right now. I'm getting worn out, but I'm going to keep doing it. Instead of doing that, take the day off. And when you come back, you might be excited to be back to doing what you're doing because you took a complete, just got away from it for just a little bit. And then you came back. And to me, that's really helpful.
Yeah. Recharges you in some ways.
Mm-hmm. The next tip that I can give you guys, I think is really simple, is just stay hydrated, get enough water. And if you're training and if it's really hot, try to keep your food relatively, check with your doctor and all that stuff, but salt your food. I find that salting my food helps, and just drinking enough water. It's simple. It's not complicated, but it's very important. One of the easiest tips that I can give you is to get a big water bottle, and just like get a big water bottle and then drink at least like half your body weight in ounces every day. At least I drink more than that on my heavy training days because I need more water, especially with the amount of protein I'm eating to flush it out. But I, again, just have a big water bottle that I take. I know how many ounces is in there, and I just sort of keep tabs on how many of those I've drank throughout the day. They even have water bottles where they have like little things on the side that allow you to like look like a little dial that moves, and you can just keep track of it however you want to do it. But I know my containers, like I've got this one right here. This is around like 20 ounces, a little over 20 ounces. I drink out of this one. And then I've got a big water bottle that's 40 ounces. And I just keep going until I typically hit somewhere between 120, 140 ounces, or 120 to about 160 ounces throughout the day.
Yeah. So you said half. Is that like a general rule? I've heard and I've seen some different things. So you do half your body weight in ounces.
I tell people that as a starting point. So for me, like for instance, a gallon of water is, let's see how many ounces that is. It's about 128. So I typically hit at least 128, 120 every day. Like that's my baseline. I drink a gallon of water baseline.
Yeah, that's great. Like I sometimes feel more fatigued because sometimes I won't drink enough water. And I actually feel like if I don't drink enough water, I'm more fatigued. And if I drink more water, I don't feel as tired. So, I mean, that's just for me. I don't know if that's just my body telling me something. I mean, obviously I don't feel like I'm dehydrated, but I probably don't have the amount of water that I should have.
Yeah. And then when I'm training, like when I have like a heavy training day, that'll probably bump up another 40 ounces or something, especially like when you do a heavy sweaty gi day. Yeah, bro, I gotta get some water back in there because I'll like sweat. Plus when you drink a lot of water, you just sweat, you know, all over the place. And so especially on those heavy like training days, like I gotta get enough water in, and so I'll increase the water amount. But again, everybody can do what they want to. I try to shoot for a gallon. I'm also 209 pounds right now. So like, again, I'm a big guy, for instance, like if you're like my wife, like I was like, she doesn't need to be drinking as much water as me. Like,
yeah, for sure.
So like we went to the doctor, and she's been like having this thing with her head, like having some headaches and stuff like that. And so her old doctor, who we switched from, because I was like, screw this guy, he just kept telling her to drink more water because she said she had headaches. She was drinking like over a gallon a day, and she's like, bro, it's like she has no business drinking that much water. Like it's ridiculous. And so like I was like, no, like and so she went and saw someone else, and she went to the doctor, and they she was like, please just don't tell me to drink more water. And the doctor's like, I'm not going to tell you to drink more water. That has nothing to do with what you're having trouble with right now.
Right.
But again, you don't want to overdo it, because because here's an interesting thing about it. Overhydration, like being too like, and dehydration literally have almost the same exact symptoms, strangely enough, right? So you basically, if you think about it, you can dilute the minerals in your body by drinking too much water. And so that's why I say, like, if you're going to drink a lot of water, you also need to salt your food. So you like use some sea salt or whatever, and things like that to make. And if your diet's good, you'll also be getting electrolytes from the food you're eating. Sure. But you want to make sure you're having enough electrolytes to come in with that water. Otherwise, you can dilute yourself, and essentially you can be technically like just too much water is really what it is.
Yeah, you're diluting it one way by having too much liquid and not enough of the electrolytes, versus just you dilute everything all together and you don't have as much in your body with just not drinking enough water. So yeah.
And guys, the last tip that I'll share with you today that will hopefully be useful to you is supplements. So I'll give you some of the supplements, the ones that I find useful. So number one, obviously for me, is like, as far as when it comes to recovery, sleep, and everything like that, is CBD. It's one of my favorites. It's been, and again, I was talking to the guys this morning about this because we were laughing at like this thing. Maybe I'll share it with you guys later on, but basically an offer that was offered to me. And I was like, I'm not doing that. That's a bunch of garbage. Like, I can't do that. I know that we share CBD stuff. It's a product I like. Again, I really wouldn't share with you if I didn't like it, because again, it's not like I'm going to like pay for my house on like CBD affiliates, but I really, you know what I mean? But I really like the stuff. I think it's a great product, and it really does help me. And so that's why I like sharing it with you guys, because a lot of you guys send me messages saying that it helps you too. So I'm like, dope. But that's it. I really like Charlotte's Web stuff. They make a really good product. I really like CBD. I think CBD oil is a really amazing product. If you haven't tried it, use Charlotte's Web if you want to. If you don't want to use Charlotte's Web, use whatever CBD you want to try, as long as it's from a reputable company, and try it out, because it's one of the biggest things that's been helpful with me as far as recovery and for helping sort of get my sleep cycles into a normal, or basically supporting my sleep cycles, I guess you would say. And then the other supplement, and I have no affiliation with this one, is I basically, when I was having my little sleep issue, I was like, let me try all these like over the counter, like sleep nutritional supplements. I was like, let me try a bunch of them. I tried like 3 or 4 different ones. And my favorite one that I came to, this is like the one that I use from time to time if I need to, is Gorilla Mind Dream. So basically, it's like there's basically it's Gorilla Mind, and then like below it says Dream. They've got a few other Gorilla Mind products, but the Gorilla Mind Dream, basically, it's like when I was looking at it, it essentially has like every sleep supplement. Like basically, they just went said put them all in there, right? So you got everything from like valerian root and skull cap. So if you've ever had like a sleepy time tea, they a lot of times have chamomile and valerian root and things like that in there. But it's got like valerian root, skull cap. It's got a little bit of fast acting melatonin, a long acting one. It's got what else has it got? It's got ashwagandha root. So again, people that have like high cortisol levels, I think they're like overstressed out. Ashwagandha root can be useful with that. And so all these different supplements in one. And what I liked about it, it was dosed kind of heavy. So basically it was dosed at like 4 pills was 1 serving. And it has like, I think 120 capsules in the thing, but I only need 1. Like, so like when I would just take 1 of those suckers and I was like, that works perfect. So like, I don't need 4, I need 1. So like for me, like that's 121 doses in there for me personally because of my sensitivity to it. Now you may be different. You may not be as sensitive as the Chewster. So you might need 2, 3, or 4. But if you're looking for like an over the counter, like sleep nutritional supplement, that was the one that I tried a bunch of different ones. And some of my students mentioned having trouble with sleep when I was kind of talking to them about it. And I put them in little baggies and I gave them the supplements each to try some of the different ones I tried. And from them, their feedback to me too was that was the one, their favorite out of the bunch too. They like that one. So that's the one that I would definitely check out. Also, Charlotte's Web has they have a product that uses CBN and valerian root skullcap. It's like a little sleep spray.
I don't even think they have that. I don't know if they have that anymore.
Oh, they don't have it anymore, man.
I think it was like a limited time thing because I asked them about it. I think right now that's not something they have, but I like that too. A little spray.
Yeah,
it was like a sublingual, right?
It was a spray, sublingual spray, and it had CBN, which is a different compound, which is there seems to be a lot of evidence that it seems to help with sleep, and then valerian root and skullcap. And that was a good one. So if they ever have that back, we'll like definitely sort of let you guys know because it's a really good one.
Yes.
But those are the biggies as far as like my sleep. That's really it, right? Because the Gorilla Mind Dream has like everything in it. And then the CBD stuff, that's my go-to for sleep and recovery. Yep. And then from there, I like protein drinks. I like a little bit of protein from time to time. I think it's useful. You can get whatever protein you like, but I think protein is a useful supplement to have. And then I use typically, just in case you're curious, I use creatine and some glutamine with my workouts. And, then there's other stuff like fish oil and all that other stuff, but those are the biggies. Those are the main ones. I think if your sleep's in check, if your diet's in check, you're getting enough water, you're taking days off when you need to. The supplements are helpful basically to support those functions, but those functions right there, that's what you need to recover. You don't need some crazy peptide or some crazy thingamajig. That's it. Now, there could be some deficiencies that you have, and there's a lot of cool, like I have some friends that do these things where you basically get your blood work done, and then these doctors will like give you a list of supplements that you need to take for your specific needs and stuff like that. And I've seen older guys get on TRT and stuff like that, where they use testosterone replacement because they're low, and they've had great effects. And those can be options too. And they can help support those other functions, right? But again, I don't think that you could take all the testosterone in the world, but if you're not sleeping and you're not eating the right food and you're not, taking days off, whatever, it's not going to help you in the long run.
Yeah, I agree. And creatine is like obviously protein, but creatine is one of those supplements that's been around forever. And the research on it's just been around. There's stuff that's come and gone. Creatine has been a consistent consistent product, a consistent supplement. You know, even when I was in physical therapy school, we had a course on like supplements and like pharmacology, and that was just one of those that the research consistently shows it's helpful in recovery and helpful in performance. So it's just one of those that, like, for a while they were talking about side effects, but really, like, honestly, if you don't take a freaking ton of it and
if you're drinking enough water, you'll be fine.
Drink enough water, it's pretty safe. But like, that's one of those that has good research behind it. And then Charlotte's Web, you know, another one, like they're third party tested. Their stuff is such high quality, and there's more and more research coming out on the benefits. And you always tell people, look, it's not a one size fits all. Not everybody's gonna get the same benefits from this or that. You might have to tweak it. Some stuff may work, some stuff may not. You have to try it, and you have to be your own freaking advocate and listen to your body and see what feels good. You know, like, maybe sleeping, some people just naturally like to sleep 6 hours and that's enough for them. For me, like, I gotta get at least 7. 8 is ideal. 7 is probably the minimum. I just know, and if I sleep too much, I'm fatigued. So that's, you know, just one of those things. It's helpful, but everybody, this is all like advice, like you always like to share. This is what works for me, and that's what I agree with. Like, take these concepts and ideas and just like use them to kind of go on your own little path and your own like way of figuring out what works for you, what supplements work for you, and what routine specifically. It may not be everything. It could be you pick and choose a couple things here and there, and those are really the beneficial things. So,
right.
But at least one of those, if you at least incorporate one of those 5 things, it's going to improve your recovery.
For sure. And again, it's just stuff to try. It's like, this is what works for me. Try it out. See what it works for you.
Yep.
And then if it works for you, great, keep doing it. If it doesn't, then scratch it, because we're all different. But those are my processes that I use for. And when you said creatine, I couldn't help but think, you know, for some of you guys that are listening to this, I know we've got people that are my age or older. You guys remember this, but a lot of the younger people, it's funny because supplements have become so ubiquitous in society that, like, it's not even a big deal. Supplements are everywhere. But like when you and I, Eugene, when we were young, like when we were in high school and stuff like that, like supplements weren't, like, everybody wasn't taking them. I remember, you know, maybe some vitamins or something like that. But if you pulled up like I remember having creatine. I took creatine like when I was in high school, and dude, everybody's looking at me like, bro, are you taking steroids? I'm like, no, it's creatine. And they're like, just be careful with that stuff, man. You know, because like basically back around that time, they had some wrestlers die, because essentially what they were doing is they were doing these terrible water cuts, and they were also taking creatine at the same time. And so basically, instead of just saying what really killed them, which is like they're trying to cut weight and you guys shouldn't be letting them cut weight, like 20 pounds for a friggin' wrestling meet. It's like, they're like, oh no, it's that creatine, get them, whatever. But it wasn't. It may have helped contribute in some way, but
I think it does. You know, obviously cutting the weight with the kidneys it's really hard on the kidneys, and then you're filtering. So it's, you know, we have to get into specifics of it.
It contributes, but again, what killed you is you're friggin' trying to cut weight in a crazy way, and that's not good. But I just remember like getting out supplements and stuff like that when I was in high school, and had to, like, I remember having to hide them in my gym bag because I didn't want anybody to see, because everyone's like, Nick, are you doing steroids? No, I'm not doing steroids. Like, I mean, you don't put steroids into a shaker cup.
I don't know about that. Some people might, but yeah, man, I think that's solid advice, honestly. Like, I think that's solid advice. Anybody, and some of this stuff, people think I need to get a, you know, this device or this machine or this or that. Like, man, there's low hanging fruit. These are low hanging fruit.
These are like easy, like not super expensive options. No. Like you like, I know you want the Theragun. Theraguns are great, right? Go get one, right? They're fun,
you know. But,
it's fine. But just like start by getting enough sleep. Start by eating some food, like the right kinds of food. Don't go to McDonald's after training.
Yeah, and sometimes it's how you phrase it. It's like, hey, this recovery stuff is going to actually help your performance. Like, you want to be more energetic, perform better on the mats. Like, do this shit. This shit actually helps that stuff. So you have to kind of frame it. Some people hate taking days off because they don't feel like it's it correlates that, well, I'm not training, I'm not getting better.
Right.
Well, you might be sharper. You might be able to retain techniques better, learn techniques better if you're feeling better, well rested. So I think of your perspective too regarding recovery. That's a huge thing. And be proactive. You know, don't like beat your body to a pulp. Like, try to keep your body maintained, and recovery can help you kind of stay at a nice, healthy, keep your body together. So hopefully you're less likely to sustain an injury.
Right. And, again, the best way to do this is try it out and then have contrast to see how you feel. And if you feel better, then you'll understand why maybe I'm suggesting this.
Yep.
But again, thank you guys for being here. Hope you enjoyed the podcast. Guys, as always, thanks to our sponsors for helping make the podcast happen. Charlotte's Web. Again, I talked about them enough on this podcast already. So if you're interested in trying their stuff, just go to charlottesweb.com and you can use a promo code Jiu-Jitsu to save Jiu-Jitsu20, Jiu-Jitsu20 to save 20% on the order. And get yourself some CBD to try out and see what you feel from it. Also, thanks to our sponsor, Epic Roll. You can check out their jiu-jitsu gear and apparel. Again, I'm a big fan of all their t-shirts, shorts, rash guards, gis, the whole thing. Everything's good quality and cool designs at epicrollbjj.com. Promo code Jiu-Jitsu for 15% off. And again, if you guys want to check out our Patreon at patreon.com/the Jiu-Jitsu podcast, we have some exclusive content from the podcast there. That's never been released either on my YouTube channel, my memberships that I have, or anywhere else. And so you can get access to it for an affordable price. And guys, if you'd like to become an email subscriber and join the Chew Crew list, you can do so by going to Chewjitsu.net. I don't know why I'm having trouble saying that.
You always have trouble saying, it's like Chewjitsu. Like, this is your thing.
I know.
Like, you've said Chewjitsu more times in your life than probably most other words.
You can go check out Chewjitsu.net.
You almost messed it up again.
Chewjitsu. Jiu-Jitsu.
Boy.
I think it's because I'm trying to say it too fast. You can go to Jiu-Jitsu. You can go to you can go to my website, damn it. Jiu-Jitsu.net.
Hey, links are in the description on the screen. Yep. You know where to go.
You can go to Jiu-Jitsu.net/join, JOIN, get access to the 3 free ebooks that I give away. In addition to that, you'll also get my daily email. And I've got a jiu-jitsu camp coming up right now. And so if you get in there, you can probably get access to it. Again, my email subscribers get discounts. They get first crack at anything that I offer or sell. And so again, if you want to be in on that and get my daily email, check it out. And guys, with that said, thank you so much for joining us this Monday or whenever you're listening to this. And we'll talk to you next time.